What's going on, family? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Give a little bit of extra time. I know I'm tardy, just slightly. We've been starting at roughly 6:30. Had to push it back 15 minutes. I'll just be transparent. I was playing golf. So peace, love, and blessings to everybody. Question on the table today before we get started for anyone that is rewatching is going to be, is the Santa rally canceled? So we'll talk about that, what that actually is. If you've ever heard about it, let me know down below in the chat. It is a period of time where the market rallies into the new year, and is typically roughly starting around the week before to typically right around the week after. So the 28th through the first week of January. So I think, I've been hearing this thing that, man, the Santa rally started, and the Santa rally is not even a real, it's just a period of time where the market likes to squeeze to liquidity areas. So I don't want to talk over anyone's head because I know I have beginners on here, but it is not the entirety of December. You can have a rough December and still potentially rally, or it can be, it can be dismantled, right? So we'll talk about that today. But yeah, we're starting to get into a period of time when it comes to trading. All right, comes in a period of time where now you're going into the holiday season. Does not mean the market's not going to be active, but I'll talk about how the market typically moves around this time. Have experienced various different Decembers right before, and I think people get excited. It's like, man, if the market's open, then I'm going to make money, right? And you watched how the Thanksgiving week went is kind of very similar to that. So I'll talk about that a little bit as well, how typically trading goes the closer you get to the Christmas time. So this week I think should be pretty clean as far as the volume and the volatility. But going into next week, right? Going into next week, that is Christmas week. So got to be very careful around, trading too close to Christmas and, the market being slow and whatnot. This is the time when I start looking for share opportunities, potentially big swing or leap opportunities, anything that's beaten down. And then start the new year fresh, right? The Monday is going to be the 28th. So we'll have a fresh week going into the new year. I think a Thursday is going to be January 1st, New Year. So yeah, we'll have a fresh week. I think the 5th or the 6th of January. So yeah, let's just not give back any profits for the end of the year and start off the new year fresh. All right. Cool. Let's jump into it, everybody. Let's jump into it. I didn't want to prolong it any longer because I think this one's going to be fairly short. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask down below, per usual. So welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. B. You're here for a reason. You've either been here before, you're in Leverage University. We live trade together, all those good things, or you've been watching my YouTube videos for free here on the channel. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. And we are coming together on our Stock Sermon Sunday. So this is our weekly market analysis where we go over how the market is going to typically move. And it has shown to be proven as of late that if you've paid attention to these stock market Sundays, I've given you a sentiment for the week, right? So if you have paid attention, like if I've said something like, hey, watch out, watch these key levels, be careful of traps. This week might be shaky. Right? It might be up and down and up and down. And I'm starting to see some things where we might potentially have a deeper pullback. And I'll tell you the reason and why if you watch my recent video on that, okay, about the Japan hikes. So this week is going to be volatile, okay? But I do believe that if we can get a deeper pullback this week, then it could set us up for that potential Santa rally. So that nice rally into Christmas, into the new year, if we hold up some key levels. So we're still bullish in nature, but there are some signals of some double tops, some resistance that's holding through that a lot of people last week were just so gung-ho over breakout of new all-time highs. And I was like, it just doesn't make any sense, at least for right now, right? So I could have been proven wrong, but last week, especially on Friday, I think people really understood that when they saw a Friday pullback that deep, all right? So yeah, I'm reading the chat really quick. I've had 2 instances last week where I bought at the money strikes and I reached my target, but I was still negative. I definitely can talk about that. Was it because I didn't give myself enough time, even though I bought 2 to 3 days out? Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. That is one of the common mistakes. So I definitely want to cover that where by the time it gets to, just say someone's in I don't know, a 680 call on SPY. And by the time that it gets to 680, it maybe took a day or maybe took all day, right? That's called theta decay. So the shorter the expiration, right? I don't like to hold those too long, because by the time it gets to your target, it really needs to be past your target if it's at the expiration. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that. How many videos are in your course, or how many hours is in the course? Great question. So we're developing our course because people do like courses, right? People do like courses. So I will be having a course coming out. I'm very strategic. I've developed a lot of courses over my entrepreneurial career, almost a decade now. I've probably created, I don't know how many courses on various different things, not just trading. So I really want to make it informative but simple. So there'll probably be roughly around, I'd say 20 modules or so. So 10 to 20 modules, just a beginner start, and then we build on it. But right now, most people are just coming in to Leverage University and live trading with us. I do coaching and answer questions, very similar to what this feels like here, right? So I'm answering questions, live trading. I do one masterclass / kind of pop up every week. So we're starting that on Thursday evenings, where it's just a class that people can come in inside of our Discord. So to answer your question, the official, like, hey, can I sign up for this course and just watch videos? That is going to be coming out into the 2026, right? So I'm looking to get that out by probably the second week of the new year. But there will be early signups for that. So if that answers that question, just be very transparent. So that's why I give so much value on the YouTube videos. I think people are like, man, there's so much here. Is there a condensed version of this? Right? I think that's the value of a course, is like, I can watch all these videos on YouTube, but like, I'd be willing to pay, whatever, a small fee or whatever it is to just have it succinctly done. And can you shorten them a little bit? Yeah, I can. So each module is not, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? So does that answer your question there? Yeah, you just need a little training. Cool. So that'll be coming out. Yeah. Yep, no problem. There's so much to it. So before I start, there's so much to it. So if anyone's a beginner or anyone's just starting to get it, like I always say, even if you are winning, right, there's so much more that you probably still have to figure out. Meaning, if you're on a roll and like, man, I'm making money, I'm trading, I'm making money, but you maybe only been trading for a year, maybe 2 years, or just figuring it out, just understand that you may not have experienced a full cycle, right? So my example here is like, do you know what a Santa rally is? Do you know how a Christmas actually trades? Do you know how a Thanksgiving trades? Do you know what a liquidity squeeze? How do you know when it's going to come back down? Like, those are things that you start to develop over time. So I just want to put it out there that please never stop learning. Don't get complacent thinking you've got it, right? And don't think that you can just maybe watch a course, right, and not move forward and like, okay, I'll just try that, right? Yes, I'm a doctor of pharmacy. Got my undergrad in chemistry. That doctorate is real. Undergrad in chemistry, right? And then I had a doctorate in pharmacy. Yep, or still do. Not have, but I have. Right? I think that, yeah, trust me. Anything I'm saying, I've done. Meaning, oh man, I'm making money, like I'm profitable, everything's good. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I went too heavy on a week that I wasn't supposed to go heavy on. Or why is the volume so low? Or why is it just squeezing and not pulling back, right? All those questions, and you have to know how to adjust to those different scenarios, right? Can't get so gung-ho and excited that we're just going to squeeze into the end of the year because we're bullish. We could give it all back, right? You just don't know, right? So every day is a new day. All right. Does that answer your question? I've experienced a full cycle of trading foolishness. She's like, yeah, I've experienced a whole cycle of trading foolishness. Yeah. So hopefully we can change that. All right. That's enough of me yapping. Let's get into it. All right. Here's our Discord. If y'all ever want to know, I'm not going to be here, promoting something for, X amount of time like people do. And that's okay if they do, but just know we have something here. And this is the educational floor, our university. I have trading trainings, and that's what I'm going to be moving into the course. And then our trading floor is where we talk about day trades, swing trades, shares, So it's not just day trading, right? It's also, man, where do I buy these shares of this stock, right? So a lot of people ask those questions. Okay, cool. Let's jump into it. Let's go for the economic calendar. For anyone Leverage University this week, just know I will be traveling. So I'll be on my mobile setup. So I'll be traveling on Wednesday. I'll be in the air. So just know that there will be no live trading on Wednesday morning. So I will make sure everyone's set up, give some trade ideas, but there will be no live trading on Wednesday morning. All right. I will jump back in on Thursday and then Friday if there's some trade setups, but ultimately kind of winding it down to lower the risk size and make sure we are still stay profitable for the end of the year. All right. Monday on the docket, what do we have? We have some home builders confidence. So if you've watched my videos before, anytime there's 10 a.m. Eastern data, that is going to be very important. So we might have some volatility around that 10 a.m. Eastern. Excuse me. I'm drinking a lot of water today. Tuesday, 8:30, and it looks like a delayed report. So unemployment rate, we may have some more unemployment data. PMI data looks like it's coming out. I do believe the CPI data got moved. So I do believe this got moved until January. So we might not have CPI. If that changes, I will let the community know. But I do believe this got pushed to July. So Thursday and then Friday. So this is what essentially, as long as this data is coming out, which is existing home sales, consumer sentiment, that is what's going to make this week very volatile, right? So a lot of sentiments going up and down and up and down, right? We're in a day trader's market, okay? That simply means that if you are options trading, which a lot of you are learning to do and a lot of you are doing, just be mindful that when you carry an option, right? I'm not sure, how to pronounce the name. I apologize, but you were asking earlier about expirations and why did it, devalue. A lot of people carry it over the next day, right? Oh, the expiration's on Friday. Like I'll give it, why would I take it out now? Right? Theta decay, meaning it's decaying. The value of the contract is decaying. There's a tax on the contract every day that you hold it. Okay. So if you have a 2-day expiration, it becomes a 1-day expiration. That is going to devalue the moment you open it up the next day. That's why I tell my community or anyone, like, that's why you see traders get out. It's like, why would I get out? The expiration is until Friday, right? So just make sure that this week that you are day trading, in my opinion, taking your profits, putting it into cash, taking your profits, putting it into cash, because you're seeing now, for those of you that are trading on your own, or maybe you're in another group or whatever, it's like you wake up one day and we're up. And then the next day you're down. And then the next day you're back up. So you're playing calls up. And then the next day you're playing puts. And the next day you're playing calls. Like, it's very difficult to swing trade, carry the contracts over into the next day. So be mindful of that this is going to be that type of week to where we are day trading until we get a clean slate, in my opinion. Okay. It's very difficult to swing trade in these conditions. Okay. Because the news drops overnight and you're like, oh my gosh, like I thought NVIDIA was going up, and then the news drop, and then I wake up in the morning, it's down, right? Let me know if that's you. So that's what people mean, myself included, when people say it's a day trader's market. Okay. Does that mean not buy shares? No, it's always a share buying market. If we're on a dip of your favorite companies, right? Slowly dollar cost averaging, buying the dip, things like that. But trading wise, it's still a day trader's market. Cool. So that's what's going to be the sentiment of the week. So I'll be checking these every day and making sure that we're trading properly around the data. Okay. Let's look at our earnings calendar for the week. Earnings calendar for the week here, and see if we got any key earnings that move the market. We got MU. Okay. So last week, we had AVGO and Lulu, okay, and we had Oracle, okay. So I will be paying attention to those to see if they hold up key supports, because they did sell off, right? Oracle still has some negative sentiments around it, but it is in a level of somewhat of a support level. But we don't know until it's confirmed, right? It's a great share buying opportunity, in my opinion, but trying to time the bottom when something keeps selling, got to be careful of that. But it could be an opportunity. So I'll pay attention to Oracle, and AVGO has really good earnings, but just a little bit of a negative guidance. Okay. So they had a double beat on earnings, but their forward guidance was a little bit off. That's why it pulled back. MU is sitting at all-time highs. That will be interesting. I'm probably suspecting that MU will probably react like AVGO and pop and then fade, just like probably everything else has been doing. Okay. Nike, that'll be interesting. It's always just interesting to watch Nike. FedEx is a good mover. That will move also UPS. So FedEx might pay attention to that. And then Nike is just, it's very interesting. Nike is just doing its thing, right? Everyone's waiting on Nike to just do something magical and recover out of the grave. But I just kind of watch that now on, just kind of see if they're got anything going on. So there's the earnings report. Let's jump into the charts. Okay. And I will check the chat periodically. So if there's any stocks that you would like me to cover, please let me know in the chat. Okay. Okay. I will answer that question. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'll go through SPY and QQQ, and then I'll start answering some questions. All right. All right. Let's start on the weekly chart. Okay. And if you've never been here before, the first thing that I do is clear up my full chart, and I'm on a weekly time frame. Okay. No indicators, no nothing, just a clean chart. Each candlestick represents what we're looking at and the price within that time frame. So each candlestick represents a week. And what we're seeing here is what we call a double top. Okay. It tried once, it tried twice. Okay. And do you see how aggressively it came off of this level? Now, some people might perceive that, well, this was nothing. This was just like a 1.5% pullback. We could still break into new all-time highs. Yes, right? But because it got so aggressive, we would have liked to see bulls close out the day back above here like this. We would have liked to seen a little bit more buying towards the end of the day on Friday to see that, oh, okay, well, maybe that was just a little blip and we can rotate back up. And if we would have had a candle that looked maybe more like that, cool. Then that's a possibility. Okay. But because it came off of that level so aggressively, right, just immediately down on Friday, right? Trap people up here at the highs. And I think that's a whole nother, YouTube video discussion is like how I hear people talk about these traps, and Dr. B, I've heard like traps. Like, how do you know a trap's going to happen when you see bullishness like this and you don't want to play against the trend, right? It's just understanding the macro conditions, and that takes time in the market. And it also just takes being in a community. We can't all just, figure it out on our own. We have to put our minds together, right? So this just takes time to understand what a trap looks like, right? So on the chart, a trap to me looks like, I've talked about in my videos, when you have a straight V bottom move off the lows, bam, and then you just go straight up, right? That is not a typical move for how stocks like to go. They don't just go straight up off the lows, okay? So this was called a V bottom and then a grind, okay? So when you have a grind like that, typically you've heard me say low volume, right? When you're grinding like that for experienced investors or people that have been in the markets, or even maybe you recognize it, this is all retail traders, right? That means you and I, uninformed folks that are just like, man, we're bullish. We're going all-time highs. So everyone starts loading the boat up here, right? And I'm like, if I'm a hedge fund, I trade like I'm a hedge fund. I trade like I have $1 billion. That's how I think about the market. So if I have a $1 billion hedge fund and the lows were down here, and in 1 to 2 weeks, we are 7% off the lows with no pullback, I'm not buying up here. I'm just waiting for a signal for my stop loss to get hit, and then I'm out. Meanwhile, someone is loading calls, someone, just doesn't know. They're like, man, we're bullish. So every day up here, calls. And the one day they hold too long, they get wiped out, right? Because I've talked about that risk to reward. Okay. All right, Dr. B, great. That's fine. All well and good. Where are we pulling back to? And, are we still bullish? Yes, we are still bullish. as long as we stay above this 675 to 673 level. Okay. If you're watching me for a while, how many times have I talked about the tariff high and the NVIDIA high? This is when we had tariffs, when Trump was talking about tariffs back in October. And this was the post NVIDIA earnings drop. So as long as we are above that level, then that is the first pit stop if we pull back. Okay. It would look something like this. So if we see more blood in the streets or a little bit more red potentially this week, that is the first pit stop that we are probably going to test. So mark that on your charts. It'll be 675, and potentially it might go past 675 into the 673. Okay. So that is the best area to, essentially watch for or react off of. Right here, it's kind of in the middle. Do you see we kind of broke trend a little bit? Grind, broke that trend. What happened when we got underneath that 684, 685 last time? Right there. We're underneath there again. Right there. So just look left. What happened when we could not hold those levels right there? Went first stop where? Right here. There. We blasted past it and went lower. So yeah, there is a possibility why I question this, saying, is the Santa rally canceled? Or, how far are we potentially going to pull back before we rally higher? We've got to hold this area because it is a possibility to go lower. And you have to assess that. As much as I'm still bullish and as much as I want it to rally at the end of the year like you do, and you're like, man, I just don't want to give back any gains. Like I want to make sure that we finish the year off strong. You can't think so one-sided, right? Including myself. I can't think so one-sided that all this can't be given back. Right? That's just not, you have to react accordingly. Just like when we were up here, people never thought that we would give all of the move all the way back again. Right? So that's how, when I talk about volatility, that's what we mean is that the swings are so wide that you have to assess risk and understand where you're entering your puts, where you're entering your call options, and where you want to buy shares. All right. So we're good on SPY. So here's what I'm looking for, a trade idea that I actually like on SPY. And also going over QQQ is because we broke this trend. When we break, we talk about the break and the retest. So you see how we broke underneath that trend? There's the retest right there, 684, and it came lower. So if we retest maybe 683 or 684 again, and we come off of there and we're fading like that throughout the week, kind of looking for maybe that. Okay. So a pop back up into 683 to 685. And I've got to have a $2 range because the swings are so wide that I've got to have a wider range. But that area right there, if we pop back up into it, 682 to 683 to 685 in this zone on my charts, I'll be looking for that for another lower high to come back down. Okay. Now, what if we don't pop up and we just, wake up in the morning and it's underneath 680? Then most likely we're going to start a fall earlier. Break underneath that, it's going to be a free fall. Okay. So do not catch a falling knife. If you see it breaking underneath 679, it's going to 675. Right? What we talk about, straight up move, straight down move. If I turn on my volume profile, look at the volume over to my right. See where all the volume was up here? When there's low volume and people are like, oh my gosh, it's flushing. What's going on? There's no volume in here. We went straight up. So it can come straight down. That makes sense? Okay. Look at where the next high volume nodes are if I go to a 4-hour. See right there, 672. Look how much volume is right there. So if we get back above, cool. But if we get underneath these high volume levels, look at this area right here. There's no volume through there. It will just flush right to 673, 675. Okay. If I bring it down just a little bit and it overshoots, then we got 670. All right. So that whole zone right there is an opportunity for bulls to step out of the way. Cool. Can I get a one in the chat? Everybody understand that? Everybody good on that? Everybody understand SPY, because understanding SPY will essentially, when everyone asks about other things like what's going on with NVIDIA, what's going on with this, I like to trade according to, even if I don't trade SPY or trade QQQ for that day, right? I want to trade in accordance to what they're doing. If SPY is weak, right, it's going to be very difficult to take your favorite stocks back up, right? Unless they have very, decent relative strength, right? They've got a catalyst or a news event or whatever. Like people are wanting Meta to go back up. Like, man, Meta, go back up. It's going to be very difficult for that to go back up if the market is pulling back. That makes sense? Because majority of people are bullish, right? The market goes up 70 to 80%, 90% of the time. So why I'm talking like this is because most people don't understand how to trade the downside, which I do very well. So if I can see the downside very well, then I have an edge over the majority. Does that make sense? Which is why I teach that. I teach the downside for most people in Leverage University. They know it's not that I like puts. Yeah, I do. But if you can see the risk, then you have an edge on the majority of the market. It doesn't mean trade against. It just means, man, if everyone's so bullish, then that's one-sided. If it gets pulled back, then I know exactly where to buy. I'm buying where big money buys. All right. Everyone's one in the chat. We're good. Does that help everybody? Cool. So those are your levels. That's what we're looking for this week, is a little bit more pain, a little bit more pullback, a little bit of stickiness at the top. Doesn't mean you can't trade calls back up. Just know that continuation might be tough unless we get back above 690. We got to clear that. We got to clear 690 to have that Santa rally breakout, and we just squeeze and squeeze. We have to have that 690 break, right? Kind of like IWM. When IWM broke 253, see right there? Look what happened. What did it do? Squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and new all-time highs. All right, so that's what you need to look for on SPY. Qs, tech is having a little tough time. Right? The semiconductor sector is dragging this down right now. Okay. It doesn't mean they won't recover. It's just, where is the bottom? So the Qs, or big tech, is sitting right at a very critical zone. So it's actually in a really good zone for a bounce, in my opinion, for the Qs, if it can hold 610 to 612. But do I want to jump in front of this just yet? Not knowing where it's going to stop? Right? I need to probably see a little bit of a bounce or a turnaround on an hourly or something like that. But you can see right there towards the end of the day, the Qs looked a little bit different. Not much buying right there, but definitely at a very key level of 610 to 612. Okay. So what I would probably be watching on Qs is probably that 610 to 612 zone to just watch how it reacts. Does it react like this? Big bounce and we go back up? Or is it one of those little, blip, little weak bounces, and then flushes, right? So I actually like the QQQ look right here at 610 to 612, but I just want to see that it's truly going to start curling back up. If we look at the MACD and the RSI, starting to get a little bit oversold on the hourly. There's a little bit more on the 2 hour, and a little bit more, as you kind of see, on the 4 hour, and then the daily also has more. So this could roll over more as the MACD is also crossing, right? So if you have not watched my MACD and RSI video, go check that out. But this tells us that, okay, the higher the time frame and that yellow signal is crossing, that tells me that, oh, well, there could be more downside if that's crossed into the downside, right? You see how all that is rolling over on a daily, starting to cross down. So I'm like, it might have a short pop, maybe on an hourly, like a quick pop back up into 620, something like that. So there will be a recovery, right? Because the hourly is oversold, right? Hourly is oversold. 15-minute is oversold. So there will be a recovery, right? This may be like a double bottom right here. So if Q's, in my opinion, if they reclaim 615, get back above 615, you could see Q's recover pretty nicely. So I actually like that, right? Back to the upside. So keep more of a bullish stance on obviously big tech and semiconductors, any positive data, any positive news, anything on those, right? We can get a spurt on QQQ back to the upside. And y'all know my gaps. All right, we got some gaps to fill back to the upside there. So QQQ and big tech, since they've been selling off, will probably be on my top watch with this look right here if it starts curling. All right, IWM also at a very critical level here because it's retesting a previous high breakout. We talk about that break and retest, don't chase the new highs. IWM, what did it do? It went to 258 and in one fell swoop, gave everything back, but it pulled back right into the breakout level. Right, so IWM also looks pretty nice here, right? 252, 253. If we get a bounce off of this area, right, and the market gets a little bit bullish and wants to go higher, then that could be interesting. All right, break, retest, hold that level. If it breaks back under there aggressively, then that's a failure. If it breaks back underneath that previous high, then that's a failure. Got to turn that back to resistance. And now we're going back and retracing the levels back to 250, back to 248. And we're tracing back and coming back to the 240. All right. So IWM still bullish until this level breaks, but otherwise that is going to be support for right now. So if I have anyone new on here that watches or is just trying to get acclimated to, okay, what does he want us to do? That's a lot of the questions that sometimes anyone that comes into our community or like, what do you want me to do off of that level? Just understand that if I'm drawing a green area and I say support, we consider calls, right? Speaking to the peanut choir here, I think some of you understand that, but just there are beginners or anyone that's just trying to better understand this. And I don't like to use the word beginner a lot, but just people are just trying to understand it. I never want to talk over someone's head to where they're like, I'm trying to get it, Brian. I'm trying to get it. If you see an area that I mark this, or I say support or pull back to a support level or pull back into this zone, you're typically thinking about calls in support. Right? I do not want to trade puts into a support/demand zone. So when I mention, if you're ever confused, like, what does he want us to do if that happens? Like, that's a big red candle. Do not, or I would not recommend trading puts the closer it gets to 675, 673. Right? Now, can you trade puts down to that area? Yeah. Right? That's good enough risk to reward from here to there. But that is going to be an area of support that bulls are going to try to hold up. So if you have a candle that looks like that into there and you enter calls down here at 675 and then it rips right back up, well, then you're SOL. You entered puts too late. That makes sense? I never know who's listening. So if I'm yelling at the peanut choir, like, dang, Brian, okay, we get it. We get it. Just know there are people that rewatch these and there are people that hear these, and I just want to make sure I address everybody. So I consider calls in support. If I'm seeing rejections or I mark an area in red, that is resistance. I do not want to trade calls into resistance unless I have enough room to do so. So I could take calls from 680 back to 685, 686. I could take QQQ calls if it holds up 612 back to 620, maybe back to 623. But I've got to look left and say there's resistance at those zones. Right? So I could trade calls back up into here like that. Right? But just don't think it's just going to smash through it until it does. Make sense? Okay, cool. Let me take a pause right there. Answer any questions in the chat for anybody. Explain when you win a trade and take profits, do you still have to sell what you bought? When you win a trade and take profits, do you still have to sell what you bought? Are you talking about options or are you talking about shares / equity? right? If you're talking about options trading, when I take profits, just say I have 10 contracts. Now, if you're talking about options trading, if I have 10 contracts, I might take 5 off, right? I sell 5 in a profit. I might sell another 3 because it's going, more in profit. And then I have 2 left, right? And then I take the final 2 out, or I set my stop losses. If that's what you're talking about, then I'm not really sure about what do you mean sell what you bought. If you're talking about shares or equity, right, buying shares of NVIDIA, things like that, then a little bit confused. I need some clarification on that because I'm not sure about the second half. Yeah. If y'all don't know, I think it comes from my doctorate background, but also I'm trained in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And if y'all didn't know, that's why you see on my profile, I'm a life coach. That's why you see a life and business coach, right? Because I coach entrepreneurs, thought leaders on how to develop their business, how to communicate properly, how to sell, how to market, all those things, right? There are people that know this stuff, but can't communicate it, right? And that's where my skill set. So I appreciate that. I'm just going to receive that on this Sunday. Yeah. No one wants to be yelled at. There's a difference between positive affirmations and coaching, right? You can coach / mentor people, but it does not mean talk over their heads. Man, you don't get this yet, right? Why don't you get this? This is your fault, right? I have a serious problem with that when it comes to people that say that they're coaches or mentors. It's like you can teach the information, but you also have to guide people along a journey. Not everyone is going to get what you're saying, so you have to communicate it in different ways, right? An options contract. Okay. So I'm up 30% on a trade. I've got 5 contracts in, right? What I'm saying about day trading is sell those 5 contracts at 30%. Do I still have to sell what I buy? I don't own anything with options contracts, right? On the buying side, you don't own anything. So just need a little bit more clarification. Does everyone understand, what I'm saying? Why I'm confused on that question a little bit? It's not that it's a bad question. It's just why am I confused on it? It's like if I buy 5 contracts, I sell them at a profit, 30%, I won my trade. I don't own anything. They're done. They're done. So we'll revisit it. So keep asking, keep letting me know how you feel about that answer. But yeah. Okay. Let's jump into some equities here. We jump on the SPY, QQQ, IWM. Let's look on some top setups here for day trading, okay, for this week. So if you are day trading or if you are looking for setups for this week, here are some setups that I like. We're going to talk about our favorite friend here, NVIDIA, which people are excited about / upset about / why is it selling / I thought it was supposed to be the big dog. What's going on with it? Okay. We have been absolutely printing on NVIDIA as far as trading in the community, like live trading. NVIDIA's been paying the bills. Okay. Because I've been able to trust this 185 to 184 level. That is heavy resistance, okay? So be very careful. As much as people have this emotional connection with NVIDIA, and if you don't, that's okay, I'm not talking to you, but people have an emotional connection to the big dog on the street. Man, NVIDIA has been so great to all of us. It ran to $1,000+. It's been the biggest, Jensen's awesome. It's kind of like that Tesla type of wave. It's just people are just, null and void. It's always going to be bullish, right? So just know that NVIDIA, as long as it's below this 184, 185, is setting lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, right? You need a daily candle, meaning I'm on a daily chart. You need a daily candle to close above 190, right? So while everyone's trying to time the bottom, like, man, calls on NVIDIA, and then dang, it's not working today. Calls on NVIDIA, dang, it's not working today. Calls on NVIDIA, dang, it's not working today, right? You're trying to catch something that is weak right now. While we are, and if you're doing this, awesome job. While we are like, man, every time the video pops, I'm shorting it. Right? Green day on the video, I'm shorting it. Green day on the video in the morning, I'm shorting it because it is not giving any indication yet that it is recovering / strong, and it wants to find more buyers. If y'all listened to some of my videos, I've said we've got to gather up more troops on NVIDIA. We've got to gather up more big money buyers, and big money buyers don't want to buy it at 190. They probably want to potentially drive it down. If y'all can put in the chat where I said NVIDIA was a better buy, 150. There's gaps down here, right, to be filled. So what if they want to drive it back to this previous high of 150 over time? I'm not saying in one fell swoop day, but what if they want to drive it back to something like that? So they can grab up more buyers down here and then rotate it back to the highs. Very similar of what it did here. Right? It was at 150, went all the way back down to underneath 90. Okay? So just understand that as long as NVIDIA is below this 184, 185, every pop is going to get shorted. Okay? Until it doesn't. Okay? So that is what we call relative weakness. So when the market got weak, what happened to NVIDIA? It started accelerating even faster because now it's like, oh, I was already weak. Now I've got the market on my side and I'm moving with the market. Okay, let's accelerate. So if the market starts pulling back, meaning SPY, QQQ, then where do you potentially want to look? Maybe NVIDIA going down and touching that 170. And if it breaks these lows underneath 170, I mean, there's 163. And I'm not saying it won't have pit stops because there's, some buyers, they're sitting right in here and it gets kind of ugly. If you see right there, right in that zone is support, right? So just understand that's what it means by relative weakness. Okay. So NVIDIA, you can see a clear level right there where I have my red zone marked. And ultimately, if I were to look at a structure, it looks kind of like a head and shoulders. Bam, 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 bam. It looks a little bit head and shoulder-ish. So yeah, that's a bearish structure. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then starting to roll over here, and the neckline would maybe be at 176. So I'll keep an eye on the video. It's been paying the bills, so we'll look at it this week as well. If I get a pop on it, right, we do have a little gap up here that it will probably recover. So guess what? NVIDIA could recover all the way up here and still get shorted. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that it won't recover. It's like, dang, Brian, like you said, shorten NVIDIA, and then I got into puts, and then it went back up. I should have played calls. Yeah, but now you're back into it. So it's the game of support, resistance, support, resistance. Do not short into support because NVIDIA might roll back up and fill that gap going back to 180, 184, and then cool, we can now reassess if it wants to break through. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm assessing like a day trader every day. So as I'm giving these stock market analyses, just understand that these things change intraday. So I have an open mind. I go into Monday, Tuesday. My Leverage University members know if you're live trading with me that I might say something here and then it changes on Monday or Tuesday because NVIDIA is at a different level, right? How many of you had that happen before? You're prepared for calls. The next thing you know, you wake up in the morning, the video is all the way up here and you're like, dang, the move already happened. So I can't trade calls into resistance if it's already up here after hours. So then cool, there's going to be a gap, trade it right back down. You see how the traps trap uninformed people, right? Good news happens overnight on the video and everyone gets all bullish and trades calls and then they get slammed back down. The trade happened overnight, right? So there's NVIDIA. Let's look at Apple. Not a big fan of this chart. I think Apple's a little bit heavy, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's sitting at pretty much all-time highs. I don't like that weekly candle there necessarily. I think personally that if the market gets any weaker, Apple probably will roll over. It's trying to hold. It's been one of the strongest stocks. It's been leading the AI race along with Google, right? And Apple is holding up that 278 to 280 level, but it just can't crack 280 yet. But Apple just cannot short it or anything like that. And it's hard to like rotate it back up when the market's weak. But that's why I'm just kind of waiting on Apple. And I want to show you this. You see it sitting right on the daily 20. Look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is underneath the daily 20. See those moving averages? Strength above, weakness below them. Okay, let's look at Amazon. Amazon also below the moving averages as long as it is below 230. So we know that Amazon will recover. I think Amazon's going to be a sleeper. I think Amazon's going to be like Google because Amazon was kind of chopping around a lot this year. I mean, if you think about it, Amazon just pretty much moved from 200 to 258. Like it really didn't take off. So I think Amazon is going to be one of those sleepers in 2026 like Google was. Man, Google's not doing nothing. It's an old head. It's not doing nothing. Pour your money into NVIDIA. And then guess what? Google rotated from 150 to 328. So pay attention to the sleepers, right? The ones that didn't really take off this year, right? Especially in big tech, right? So Amazon, I really like it back underneath $200 personally. There's some gaps back here, as you can see. So if Amazon can pull back into the 180s, I like it. I think, if we can get something like this, that would be great. But I would keep an eye on that weekly 200 level. I like Amazon closer to here. Does that mean it's going to go there tomorrow? No. But just know that this is heavy up here on Amazon right now, and it's underneath the daily moving averages, that cluster that you see underneath 230, right? When it gets underneath that cluster, a lot of times it just moves to the next moving average. Where is that? 215, right? So we got 220, 215, and we do have a little bit of a gap down there. You see it? It just popped up to fill. So Amazon could be another one that could be decent. If you do like to trade it, it's been okay. It kind of messed me over a little bit. So Mike, I told a group I'd give Amazon a little bit of a break. I'd rather just buy the dip on Amazon than trying to short it. I'll talk about Netflix last because that is a dip buying opportunity, and it is in support. So that's a different look. Let's look at Google. Okay. Google's on a teeter-totter, as you can see, right? It's starting to get a little bit weak, but it's not going down aggressively, right? It's not flushing yet. So we got one more line of defense. If it takes out 305, I think that's where it's going to start flushing because it'll be underneath the daily 20, but you can see it's just still holding right there underneath that. So I'll keep an eye on Google. Maybe we'll watch that 312, 315 for it to pop back into, or if I just see some price action that just stays in this channel and it starts to look like this, just stays here, that's when it maybe could roll over like that. Okay. So I like Google a little bit further down for a better risk to reward if we were to do calls, but at any point Google could just pop like this, right? So it's about risk to reward up here. I'd rather be on the short side with puts with Google than trying to, calls back up on this right now. So any pop, I feel better with all this resistance overhead, shorting it. And then when it gets down here, maybe looking at calls again, potentially. All right. So Microsoft, it's trying to, but you see that big double top right there. It looks like those Nashville, the building in Nashville. I keep remember the bank. I think it's Deloitte building or Bank of America building. Anyways, it looks like that. All right. So we got a double top, clear double top, and we got some lower highs. And I would consider this, at least for right now, more bearish consolidation on Microsoft, just based on the price action that it had on Friday. I was looking for Microsoft to recover, but you do not want to short Microsoft into the daily 200. Okay. So as long as it holds up 470, we're good. If Microsoft breaks underneath 470, look out below. All right. We're going lower. Okay. So 470 is our key zone on Microsoft to pay attention to. And then if it fails that, then I'll just let it go and we'll see what happens and where it's trying to go. But ultimately, it's sitting in a support, right? That moving average is too close to try to short Microsoft because at any point it could bounce like this. Okay. We do have some gaps to fill up above. I do like it, so I will be paying attention to my sentiment there that do not short into that, but it is relatively weak, and we will see if it rotates. But I do like Microsoft sitting in support as more of a bullish setup for right now. Does that make sense? It's like I do not, the short right now is done, right? You can't short into the daily 200. Okay. Meta, I'm not sure what type of candle that is. I saw that over the weekend. I was like, where did that come from? What is that? Like, I don't see it on any other time frame. Like, what is this? So it must have been some little spiel, but Meta, 650, just watching the psych levels, 650. You see that those gaps are down below. It kind of broke a little bit of a trend. So Meta needs to really hold up this daily 20 right here, this last line of defense of 630. And we talked about this. I've mentioned it here on the platform that 600 was a great dip buy, but Meta was just not going to fully recover all the way past 700 without, in my opinion, retesting. That is a V bottom bounce. A lot of times, for those that don't know, that's simply everyone exiting their shorts and we get a short squeeze. All right. And then people start buying, which is fine. They bought the dip. Everyone exits their puts or shorts. But then it's got to show that this is a true support. So if it holds up 630, great, we can go back higher. If it doesn't, then we're going to retest the lows and potentially, like I talked about, have your 2 buy zones because of those gaps, right? We talked about those gaps that are on Meta below, right? I like Meta personally buying heavier down into the mid 500s and 500. See those gaps down below? So if that breaks back underneath 600 for whatever reason, just know we got more downside because of those gaps that are down below. All right. I'll be watching that daily 20, see if that holds up, but look at all those moving averages to the top, pressing down on the stock. Okay. Tesla, still bullish. Tesla just does whatever it wants to do. I've got really no comment on Tesla, to be honest with you. I put Tesla on my back burner and I got really good feedback. So I appreciate those that commented on the recent video about, how much money needs to start with day trading. There's a lot of people that were messaging me, and if y'all want to really know the back end, like, man, I was trading Tesla and I only have $1,000 account and I was spending $600 on a contract. I'm like, why are you trading Tesla? Right? There's no reason. You can make just as much money on IWM or SoFi or anything else. And you can make 100+%, 200+% on your money without having to risk your whole account on Tesla. Just because the move is bigger does not mean you make more money. Just because Tesla moved $20 does not mean you make more money. It might seem or perceive like it because people portray it to be, right? But not everybody and their mother wants to put $100,000 into a Tesla trade, right? So if we consider this holistic skill set, we want to make sure that everyone's included, in my opinion, right? So just understand, if you want to trade Tesla and you have a smaller account, you can trade it, but trade TSLL. If you didn't know about TSLL, trade TSLL. If someone that you're following or someone is calling out Tesla, doesn't mean I don't trade Tesla. Tesla used to be my baby when it was $150, $180, but now that it's up here, contracts are just ridiculous, in my opinion, for weekly contracts. In my opinion. Does that make sense? Everybody good? Okay, cool. Let's keep moving. So Tesla, I would just watch, if you're watching 470, I can still chart it out. 470, we'll watch 470. This is curling up. This is more bullish in nature, but we got resistance overhead, right? It's trying to break out, right? Everyone's trying to get Tesla to 500 plus. This is a nice bullish flag hold, but just know we got some gaps below and some thin structure if it does triple top here and we come back underneath those moving averages. So as long as it's above these daily moving averages right here, right? 435, 440, and then this curling right here, it is bullish. It is curling up above all those moving averages. So Tesla is bullish comparative to the market. All right. AMD, I like this. I like this. How long have we been waiting on AMD to potentially show us confirmed that it wants this gap fill? Okay. If AMD can somehow, I think Friday was awesome, but if it can give us some type of little pop to get a better entry, it's associated with NVIDIA, right? I think if MU does what AVGO does or did, and MU doesn't come through on its earnings, this could roll over back underneath $200 and we're back down here. Okay. What does that look like to y'all? A little bearish flag, right? There could not get back above 220, 223, roll over and maybe continue down like this and see if it can break through. Okay. So AMD, NVIDIA, semiconductors, those two setups, I really like. Any pops on them, I like them. Obviously keeping, intact. If they, do something like this, then that dismantles that trade idea, right? So we're reactive. We don't guess, but I'm looking at this. I'm like, I kind of like it. Multiple times, can't get above that 220. So any pop on it, I'm looking for green. I would be looking to short it back down. If we can get a bigger pop, the bigger the pop, y'all know, the better. Okay. AVGO. I'm just going to wait. I mean, it is now cracked underneath the daily 20. It is pushing underneath the daily 50. I'm not saying it can't recover, but again, kind of like Meta, it's inevitable it's going to recover, but is that really the bottom, right? And does it roll over like that, right? Because now we're back underneath these previous highs of, what is that, 378, right? So this, and we got some more gaps right here. So this is now resistance unless it reclaims. All right. So it would look something like this. Break underneath those levels. It always retests it. All right. See if it can get back above. If it starts rejecting that 370, that could roll over even lower. Okay. So we'll watch that 370 throughout the week. I like trading AVGO if it gives us a setup towards Wednesday, Thursday. I will not be on live trading on Wednesday. So we shall see throughout the week. All right. Palantir, got nothing really. I mean, it's kind of sitting in resistance, but it's also holding up support. I don't like that personally, but yeah, that sitting in resistance, but holding up support. It's in this little bitty thing that it wants to do. I'm not a big fan of that. It's not showing much weakness. And then also it's, in resistance at the same time. MU, this was one that I kind of regret missing. I always think of Trent when I think of MU because he always asks about it, but MU double topping off of that level, been wanting to short MU for a minute. So, but it's got earnings. So I do not trade anything that has earnings the same week. So MU, I'll just be watching, see what it does. If it pops back up, maybe it gives us something. Hood is approaching. I know people have probably been hearing in the streets or whatnot, but I still love Hood, but it's important where it retraces back to, because if Bitcoin pulls back, crypto pulls back, I like Hood closer to 100. All right. Seeing if it can hold up that 100. I love it if it can get underneath 100. Right. I would love for Hood to just absolutely just tank and break everything. Right. Give us a better risk to reward because we know it's going back up. Right. So Hood, we'll watch this 100 to 115 level. A lot of buyers sitting in here, as you can see. And if I turn on my volume profile, a lot of high volume nodes sitting around these areas here from 120 to 115. And we'll watch that to see if we get some recovery off of crypto for this week, potentially. All right. But just know you got some lower highs set, lower high, and a lower high on a daily time frame. Okay. Also, where are we? We're back underneath the daily 20. Okay. So it's got to get back above 123. So we'll keep an eye on Hood. If it recovers, it's got a little bit more gap to fill. So, and there's a little bit more gap down there to 107. All right. Let me take a break really quick. Asking any questions, thoughts, perspectives. Are we still going good? So put anything down below that you would like me to cover or any questions. I mean, I've got a major watch list, but y'all know I just day trade the primary big tech stocks. I'll probably make a separate video because this could go forever, but I'll probably make a separate video over, Brian, what do you see for 2026? Like, what are big trades, like, is there another Palantir sitting somewhere? Is there another, um, MU sitting somewhere? Is there, another NVIDIA sitting somewhere for 2026? Another hood, that's $10, $20. I think Lyft is still an opportunity. It's sitting at $19, $20, $18. I still like Lyft going to $30 plus, and that is from a technical perspective. We've been talking about Lyft since $7, $8. We got it marked in the community. So I like Lyft. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm looking. It's very difficult because you have to look outside the box now because most of big tech has run so much, right? So everyone's looking for that semiconductor, that big tech stock that's just going to run like crazy, and it's like it's been running for the last 3 years, so it's a little bit more difficult to find those. You kind of have to find stuff like Lulu, right? Stuff that you may have questions about, like, man, who's going to buy clothes and stuff like that. You may have to look that way or just wait if you don't feel comfortable. Like we called out this Dollar General, right? Dollar General at $70. That was 100% off the highs, right? So you may have to look around a little bit more to see the possibilities. I still like Uber, right? Uber's sitting in a really good area. I want to see how this just moving in tandem with Lyft. Uber will be over $100. It's just where will it go from? Is it from 80 or is it going to go from like mid 60s? A lot of the healthcare stocks, I think those are still beautiful. I think people are just impatient sometimes, but CNC, UNH, right? They will recover. It's just not as fast as your MPs, quantum stocks, so on and so forth. What else? I think Kava and Chipotle will recover. I think, the consumer, if they put money back with this stimulus, i.e. the quantitative easing, if they put money back in the markets, then people may be more at ease to go out and spend some money on their Chipotle bowl, so on and so forth. So kind of like 2020, 2021, when people went back outside, people might be a little bit more willing and those numbers might go up, which might affect the CMGs, Chipotle, right? Sitting at $30, rotating back up. It might affect the Kavas, right? Sitting at $50, and at one point it was $170, right? So you might have to look outside the box. That's all I'll say for that. There's really no beaten down like SoFi. Yeah. Right. I love SoFi at 18 to 20. If we can get one more pullback with this quantitative easing and pull back to 18 to 20, I know it seems crazy, but I just look at the charts and react. As long as it holds up 25, it's going to do its thing. But there are some gaps down here at 20 and at roughly $16, $17. So it is not uncommon to see that happen. I think people just, I say people because some of the messages that you see and get sometimes it's just like, that will never pull back to there. Okay. Like people said Meta would never pull back to $80. You can't say never. You have to prepare for that if it does happen. Right. Kind of like SMCI. Everyone was on SMCI, right? When it was at $1,200, $1,300, and that was the big stock. And then it stock split and it moved all the way down from $1,200 back to, at the time of the stock split. Now it's $30. All right. Oracle, same thing. Now there's questions about Oracle. Does Oracle pull all the way back? There's some gaps on Oracle all the way back to 150. Does Oracle pull back to 130 again and reset? Right. So it is possible for these big volatile tech stocks and whatnot to drop 50 to 60%. All right. All right. I'm going to start wrapping it up here, everybody. No more questions, thoughts, perspectives. Any feedback on the YouTube videos? I appreciate all the support on that. For those that have been checking them out, watching them. If you're on the fence about Leverage University, no rush, no pressure. I'm not that type of person. But I will say that you will make money and you will see a difference from just watching the YouTube videos. Anyone in Leverage University, there's a difference of seeing me in action and seeing us in action than just talking about it. Right? Did you enter NVIDIA puts where I entered NVIDIA puts? Right? Did you enter SPY puts where everyone else entered SPY puts, or were you chasing? right? Did you exit when we exited or did you hold, right? So like entries and exits is where you'll see the value of doing it with your friends, right? Getting a group together, getting some friends or whoever, coworkers or whoever, just don't pay anything, don't pay nobody anything. But you have to understand that I have to have feedback, right? So if you're doing something incorrectly with your trading and you don't know why and you don't have anyone to ask, right? That is a tough place to be. I've been there before, right? So just understand that. Just make sure you have feedback of, man, why I held it, but like, why did it go to zero? Kind of like the question here, right? So that's the value there. Take your time. Keep trying different strategies. Listen to YouTube videos here. That's why I put out as much value as I can. But if at any point you're like, I'm understanding what he's saying. I see that it works out, but I don't know why I can't execute. Right? That's the push for you to say, maybe I should join at some point. All right. So no pressure at all, but it's there for you when you're ready. All right. Final question in the chat. If you're not inside of our newsletter, which is just joining our WAP platform, a lot of you are already. That is where you're going to get informed. You can message our team. I will answer questions there. Any concerns, right? I know people don't like to put their business out here on public YouTube streets. So just make sure you join at least our newsletter so you understand what's coming up. All right. Got the course, a little mini course. What else? I think people have been asking about challenges lately. All right. Like, Brian, do you do like a small challenge or something like that? Like, I'm not a big fan of, a challenge, like starting off with $200 and trying to flip it. But I am a big fan of like starting in a group and saying, hey, let's work on this account together. Right. Hey, let's all deposit $500 and all deposit $1,000 or all deposit, whatever it is, and just working on that together. But I think everyone has their own journey, right? Everyone has their own journey. So a lot of times the challenges are a great marketing tool to get people started. But a lot of times the strategies aren't there, right? So, give me feedback, what you would like to see, and we'll go from there. Going once, going twice. Not as many questions today, which is okay. Just reviewing, make sure everyone, thank you, your communication style, 2 days out. So just understand my sentiment. I like the downside for right now, a little bit of a pop, maybe on Monday, Tuesday. So we're in support right now. So I do not want to short into support. So if we get a little recovery, I will be looking for a potential green day. Let's check out the VIX really quick. Let's check out the VIX. If y'all didn't know, the VIX is our volatility index. Okay. So the VIX spikes, or it will go in the opposite direction when we get, volatility, or it just look at it. How I like to say it to anyone starting out is look at this as the opposite of the overall market. So you see these spikes on the VIX, right? What happened on October 10th? The market crashed, right? Or pulled back pretty heavily, corrected. You see that spike right there? It was in support and it spiked. You see when the VIX was back here at $17, look to the right, and it spiked when it gets down here. Well, look what the VIX is doing. Again, it's down in support right here, and it's spiking off of there and spiking off of there and spiking off of there. So that's another indicator or / volatility index that we look at, and you'll hear traders mention saying, man, the VIX is in support. We may have, if it pops like that, the market is going to correct, or you're going to see some big red days coming in, right? So we look at this as essentially the opposite, right? Kind of a fear indicator, right? So I will check that out. I did pop on Friday, as you can see. It popped green off of there, and what happened on Friday? That big red day in the market, all right? So another indication, we're just putting things together, right? That gives us this sentiment. I never like to come in here and say that X, Y, and Z is going to happen because I think so, but you can see it on the charts, right? You can see it with the sentiments. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Now I can see it. No one's just telling me, why should I believe so-and-so just because? Give me a reason, all right? Why I should be cautious, why I should pay attention, why there will be more downside, why if I trade calls back up, I need to be careful, all right? So, cool. All right. Nothing. All right. Cool. Well, let me I appreciate you guys and ladies. Thank you all so much for the support. If there's anything that you would like me to improve and you're like, I don't like this, Dr. B, or whatever, or can you try this or do this, please let me know. Give feedback. And we'll go from there. What's your strategy? The rat trap. Yeah. What do you mean? Like how I trade? Like what type of trades do I take strategy wise? Yeah, just let me know. I'll give you a couple of A plus setups. I have a video on the channel about my A plus setups. So just go look at A plus or type it in. But what's my strategy? Yeah, clarify for that for me. I'll answer your question before I leave. What do you mean by what's my strategy? Like how do I trade? What type of trade setups do I look at? I'll answer it from that. I'll just assume that. Okay. Because I think that is not communicated sometimes is, what type of trade do you take? I am a risk to reward trader. Okay. What does that mean? That means if I see something weak, but it's approaching support, I'm not interested in puts. I'll repeat that again. If something is weak, WEAK, and it is pushing down, for example, into support of NVIDIA, the trade is over for that time being. I do not want to enter puts close to support. Right? So I want to enter puts up here. So if I miss the trade, I miss the trade. Does that make sense? Trent asked a really good question in our community the other day. He's like, Dr. B, you trade puts so well. You trade calls up so well. Like if you see it going in that direction, why don't you just take that trade? It's because I don't like to chase. My rule number one is I do not like to chase. If you never understood that from any traders that you watch or try to learn from, it's like, man, that doesn't make any sense. It's a big red candle. Why would I not just jump in? It's because it's very difficult to control your risk. So if you're trading with one contract, two contracts, it's not a big deal. But when you start scaling up, right? Scaling up to 20 contracts, 30 contracts, and you want to make more money, you do not want to chase because one little wick back up, you'll be down 30%. Do you want to be down 30% on a $10,000 position? Are you comfortable with that? Some people are like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Okay. When you see that thing go negative $3,000, $4,000 very quickly, you'll probably rethink your entries. Does that make sense? So I'm a risk to reward trader. I don't care if it's pushing down and weak, the trade's over. I need to wait and see to how it reacts. I'll give you an example on Google. Okay. I'll give you an example on Google. So in our community, if you'll watch my last video, I talked about this trade review and, Billy and anyone in Leverage University, y'all know this trade we took on Friday. Google had already rejected off of where I really wanted my entry. Let me take all this stuff off. It's too much going on here. Okay. So I'll put it on the hourly. So you want to enter on a previous support turned resistance. So where was the best entry? 315 rejection, right? See that previous supports, now it's broken underneath. Now it turns into a rejection. It is no longer support. So that's where you want to enter puts. And I'm addressing the whole community now. So the rat trap, I appreciate this question because it's a really, really good question if this is how you wanted me to answer it, right? So I'm not a momentum trader. So if I don't enter close to here and the trade is already down here, right? The candle's already down here, then I need to wait because guess what? We're technically in support, that little 310 area, because we could have just whoop right back up, right? So I do not want to enter. It doesn't mean I can't, but I need to go into a tighter time frame and say, man, where can I find an entry? What's happening at that area? And what we did is we saw that right here, I didn't get this entry. Okay, so that's what you just saw on the bigger time frame. I didn't get this entry, But guess what? I saw it break down another level right there. You see that support? Well, look what it did. It broke underneath that. And I know it looks very minute because I'm on a 5-minute, but now that turns into rejection. I entered right there. Okay. And then took that. Right. So I want to wait. If I see something weak, I want to wait to see if it pops up again. I find an entry, right, where I can control the risk. I don't want to chase this or chase this because eventually you're going to get what just happened. Bam. You were late to the party. I'm sorry. Right now you got to stop out. You entered puts down here. So there's a difference between risk to reward traders, meaning I like to enter or consider puts in resistance, and I like to consider calls in support depending on how it's reacting, right? Other people, they might be momentum traders. That means opening drive, it's down, I'm in puts immediately. Like I don't care about entry. Like I see momentum going down, it's weak, I'm in puts. Okay, that's fine. You take that trade. Where's your exit? I don't know. I just know I'm green. So you don't know where support is. You haven't like moved your things around or marked it. You just know you're up. So a person steps away, walks away, right? And just looks back and it's like, man, what just happened? You didn't have a full plan for the trade. We take it from resistance to support and support to resistance, right? And if it goes further, we take it to the next resistance and then the next one and then the next one, right? I have multiple different targets, right? So if y'all are watching, and if this helps anyone else, awesome. And if y'all know from live trading, we talked about this trade. I was literally saying that, hey guys, I want to take my profits down into this 308, 307 area, right? We take it from here, enter here, and our exit is right there because I don't know what's going to happen right here. It could wick back up again, right? And guess what it did? It reacted off that area. Bam. Right? But it wasn't very strong, so it was able to break it again. Right? But you don't know that until it happens. That's why you trim profits at your profit target. Take some off. Take your 30% win. Take your 15% win. Take your 50% win. Right? Let those runners run, those extra contracts that you have. Right? We try to, but sometimes, it just doesn't work. But hopefully that answers your question. I don't want to belabor the point, but hopefully that answers your question. Yep. Messing around with futures tonight. I actually got an event, Dennis. I apologize. I actually got an event I got to go to. It's like a Christmas party. So, yeah, I apologize. But yeah, if you got any questions, I'll have my phone on me, Dennis, for sure. Just message us in our private chat. Do I have a free trial? No, but what I'm thinking about doing is maybe a week like paid trial, right? Just a small week paid trial. It's been proven enough inside of our community. So, what I'll be doing is probably a week paid trial. So, maybe 7 days, 5 days, something like that for $20. I just want to see who's serious, right? And then it'll start your monthly membership. If that's cool. So, yeah, that'll be coming out probably in the next week or so. It's just maybe a little 5-day trial. Y'all come in live trade with us for 5 days, maybe $20, $25, and then it starts your monthly membership right after that. Cool. I just need to. It's been proven at this point, so nothing free, but it will be a small fee that I believe everyone can do. Is that cool? Is that cool? Yeah, awesome. So just make sure you join the newsletter. All right, make sure you join the newsletter. Please, I'll start ASAP. Do I need to do that tonight? There's no rush. The only thing about this week and why I didn't do it this week, I'll probably do it next week. Rat Trap, just want to mention you, is because I will be traveling this week. So I don't want someone to, I'm just looking out. Would you want to pay something and you don't get the full experience, right? So I will be traveling this week on Wednesday. So that will be a day I won't be live trading. And then I'll be on my mobile setup on Thursday. Like it's going to be a little bit more, so I would want you to have the full experience, right? Does that make sense? So we'll probably launch that probably towards the end of the next week or so and just make sure that people can get the full week experience. And then it starts their monthly membership. That's cool with y'all. So yeah, just to get people more acclimated. I understand that this is, and now I'm just chatting. So if y'all got to run, but I definitely understand that people are skeptical, right? You have every right to be. I'm a random dude on YouTube, and you're probably watching other people and you're like, man, I think I know what he's talking about. And it seems like he's right. And his people are winning and he's doing well and all this kind of stuff. But like, I don't want to be bamboozled. I get that. I've been in business for a long time, right? So I get that, right? But just know that I'm confident in what I do as well. So you can't sit on the sidelines for too long. You got to test it out for yourself. So I'll just say that. So whenever you feel like, yeah, I've gotten enough value, I feel like this dude is giving me everything. I'm trying to learn it and it's just not cool, right? Test it out. All right. I appreciate y'all. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Dennis, be safe, man, on those micro contracts. MNQ, very, very volatile this week. Be careful of those new news and data. Let me touch on gold, Dennis, if you want to look at gold really quick. I think gold could be really nice, personally. I know it's pretty volatile, but gold has got a nice chart set up here on a bullish type of setup. Okay. It's up after hours here. It's got a nice support at 395 on GLD. And I know it's kind of wide, so if you can scalp it, but I would look at 4,300. And gold typically moves roughly about, just say 20 points. So if you can look at 10-point increments and get an entry, but definitely this looks more like a curling action, trying to retest these highs. But, you got to have that precise entry on gold. So definitely take a look at that. I think gold could be really nice, trying to break out to new all-time highs, especially if the market, pulls back and gold gets strong. And that goes for anyone else in options. That GLD could break out above 400. So I was looking at those 400 potentially calls out into, maybe January, something like that, depending on the price point. But yeah, gold definitely bullish right now. Cool. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to y'all. Thank y'all so much. My accounts expired this week. Okay, cool. We'll definitely tap in. All right. Thank y'all so much.